Spooky brothers and sisters and horror lovers all across the globe, I went through the entire catalog of horror movies that are on Tubi, and when I tell you that they have the best collection of horror movies out of any streaming platform, I 100% mean it. You want to watch your favorite horror movie from a certain decade, like the 80s, 90s, or even modern horror? They got it. You want to watch cult classics? They have it. You want to watch some of your favorite found footage and paranormal horror movies? They have it. You want them to walk the dog, cut the grass, burp the baby? Shoot, they could probably do that too. It is your boy Tech. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe so you can join the spooky gang and slide with me family as we go over the best horror movies that are currently streaming on Tubi. Now, Spooky Gang, as y'all already know, normally when I upload a video like this talking about the best horror movies that are on a certain platform or something to that nature, I usually do roughly about 5 movies, and then I might give a couple of honorable mentions or something like that. But now for this one, I did a deep dive, so I wanted to give you guys the complete best selection of horror movies that I think are on Tubi. Now, legit, like I've told y'all many times and like I said in the intro, Tubi is the best out of all the streaming platforms. So whether it's HBO Max, Netflix, Hulu, Paramount Plus, whatever you name it, Tubi has the most and the best overall collection of horror movies. So you really can't beat Tubi at all, and that's why I wanted to make sure I gave you every single banger that I could find. And so without further ado, starting off this list, we're talking about a fire movie directed by Ty West, and that movie would be The House of the Devil. For those of you that are not familiar with this movie, in 1983, financially struggling college student Samantha Hughes takes a strange babysitting job that coincides with a full lunar eclipse. She slowly realizes her clients harbor a terrifying secret, putting her life in mortal danger. Honestly, keeping it real with y'all, this is my favorite of Ty West films. Ty West is very well known, especially for his most recent trilogy of movies with Pearl, X, and Maxine. But I think that this movie is potentially better than all 3 of those, and that's even with my affinity for a movie like Pearl. But what Ty West does really well with this film is it is so dark and so unsettling. Like when our main character Sam gets to the home to start the babysitting, like you could just immediately tell that just something is off. Just all around the house, just one looks so dark, and then it's just this old, you know, Victorian historic type looking home. And then when you actually meet the people that she's supposed to be quote unquote babysitting for, it just everything about it screams that okay, something is not right about this family. So it's just honestly a really banger movie. Love this movie, and it is one that I'll for sure put my stamp on. The next movie that I wanted to talk about is the movie The Descent. This is a movie that I know I've talked about a few times on the channel, but it truly is just one of those bangers. This movie was directed by Neil Marshall, and it's about a year after a car accident kills a woman's husband and her daughter. She, along with 5 other women, embark to North Carolina on their annual expedition, but things go horribly wrong when they discover that the cave they are in is inhabited by strange humanoid creatures. This movie is one of those movies where you're already dealing with the fact that you're cave diving, and so you have the element of claustrophobia, it being dark, and then with that still trying to have to find your way out. I mean, like, first of all, I don't know why people go cave diving to begin with. Like, I feel like that is one of the biggest waste of times that you could do with your life. Anyway, with this movie, it has great character development, a lot of great aspects going for it, great relationships, and some fractured relationships between some of the people that are going cave diving, and you add on the fact that they have to battle these creatures that are down there. It just adds that much more to the movie. And so really banger movie, and also another one of those movies that I'll for sure put my stamp on. The next movie that is one of the best on Tubi is the movie Creepshow 2. Now this movie right here is very near and dear to my heart. I absolutely love Creepshow, and specifically Creepshow 2. And for people who are not familiar with Creepshow and like the way this franchise runs, is these movies are directed by George Romero, but they're written by Stephen King. In these movies, there's always a few short stories and then usually like a wraparound story. So specifically for Creepshow 2, 3 macabre tales from the latest issues of a boy's favorite comic, one dealing with a vengeful wooden Native American, another dealing with a monstrous blob in the lake, and another with an undying hitchhiker. Like this, to me, like these 3 short stories are just like perfect. I love every single one of them. Each of them brings something different to the movie, and I just think that this movie is low-key a masterpiece. None of these stories or anything like that are per se meant to scare you by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just the creativity and just The overall aesthetic, love the 80s vibe of the whole movie, and then just this movie just really has a nice charm to it, and I love it. So yeah, if you are a fan of, you know, anthology movies or anthology series and things of that nature, well, you kind of get an anthology all within one movie. So I think that this is a great option for anybody who just loves George Romero's work, or if they, like I said, love anthology movies. The next movie that I wanted to talk about is the movie Midnight Meat Train. Going over this movie real quick, a photographer's obsessive pursuit of dark subject matter leads him into the path of a serial killer who stalks late night commuters, ultimately butchering them in the most gruesome ways. So yeah, like the synopsis says, this killer is walking around with this dang mallet, and when I tell you he was doing people dirty, like full blown like butchering. I mean, like, it's amazing some of the stuff that he's doing to these people with that mallet. And then the crazy part about it is he does it all with a straight face, like he's just completely unbothered while he's doing it. So yeah, he's just really effing people up. But yeah, this is a really solid movie, you know, one that a lot of times flies under the radar, but it genuinely is good. It's one of those movies that came out in the 2000s. You see a lot of that same 2000s aesthetic that you are familiar with a lot of the other movies that came out around that era. But overall, just a nice solid pick. I don't know if this movie is on many other streaming platforms, so just the fact that it's on Tubi is just a big plus. So for sure, another good movie that you'll be able to throw on. The next movie, which is one of my favorite of all time, and one that I think is not only my favorite in the franchise, but I think low-key, and it's going to be super sacrilegious here, but I think it's the best in the franchise, and that is Evil Dead 2013, the remake. Pretty much everybody's familiar with the whole general Evil Dead story, and you know, and with this one, it's not too much different from some of the original films. And you know, with this one, it's 5 friends head to a remote cabin where the discovery of a Book of the Dead leads them to unwittingly summon up demons living in the nearby woods. I love this movie front to back. What this movie gives that I feel like a lot of the other ones don't, even the original in part 2, is this movie is just so dark, and the Deadites themselves do so much more than they did in some of those original movies. They genuinely feel like they are a threat in this movie, and that's something that I truly can appreciate. This is like the ultimate gore movie, so for all you gore hounds, and if you just so happen to not see this movie, I 100% recommend it if you just love bodily disfigurement, gore, some level of possession, just all that culminated together into just a very, very, very good movie, and for me, one that I can throw on anytime and I'm always gonna enjoy it. The next movie that I wanted to mention as one of the best on Tubi is Hell House LLC. This is also a movie that I've talked about a couple times before on the channel, and every single time I talk about it, it is deservingly so. This is the definitive, in my opinion, best found footage movie that you can watch. Yeah, I know everybody loves the Blair Witch. Everybody loves, you know, maybe the first 2 or 3 Paranormal Activities, amongst other movies, but this movie just nails every single aspect that you would love about a found footage movie. Just to give a little bit of a background on this movie is directed by Stephen Cognetti. 5 years after an unexplained malfunction causes the death of 15 tour goers and staff on the opening night of a Halloween haunted house tour, a documentary crew travels back to the scene of the tragedy to find out what really happened. Biggest element that makes this movie good is the realism. This movie just genuinely feels real. In the beginning, it looks like, you know, like a documentary style interviewing one of the victims, and then it shows film back from when the incident happened, as if, you know, one of the tour goers that was in line was, you know, recording and uploading to YouTube. So like there's some little elements kind of like that actually made it feel really realistic. And it's just like the way the crew interacted with each other. It's not that any of, you know, the actors or the characters were just spectacular or anything, but they fit. It felt realistic. So yeah, are they gonna win an Oscar or anything like that? No, but it just felt like you were watching the events of something happening. Kind of a quality that I really enjoy about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, is it has that real documentary style where it feels like you're just watching these events happen to these people, as opposed to this is being filmed with studio production and the whole 9. You know, it's a little different. But no doubt, for my found footage people, there is really no better horror movie than this. So for sure, y'all go ahead and check this movie out if you haven't seen it. The next movie that I wanted to talk about is the movie Let Me In. This movie is directed by Matt Reeves, and it follows a bullied young boy befriends a young female vampire who lives in secrecy with her guardian. This movie is the American version to a movie Let the Right One In. For me, I just really love this version. Chloe Grace Moretz has always been a very talented actress, and who plays Owen, I felt like he was really good here too. They just felt like they also had a lot of chemistry together, even though it was that awkward chemistry, obviously just based on the film and the whole plot of the story, but it was a really nice awkward chemistry that I think that worked really well together with them two. Just overall, the story is really good. I mean, she basically helps this bullied boy, face his fears and become a big dog. So you really can't beat this. I really like this movie. If you like vampire films, this is right down your alley, and like I said, you really can't beat it. The next movie that I wanted to mention as one of the best on Tubi is the movie Train to Busan. This movie follows a father with not much time for his daughter are boarding the KTX, a fast train that shall bring them from Seoul to Busan. But during their journey, the apocalypse begins, and most of the Earth's population becomes flesh-craving zombies. And while the KTX is shooting towards Busan, passengers fight for their families and their lives against the zombies and each other. So to me, this movie is a really, really good movie. I would say it's one of the top tier movies in the horror genre for sure. It's a really touching movie, and that's a quality, if done right, can really elevate your horror movie. And that's, and the way that you get that is through caring for the characters. You have to have good character development, and they have to be written properly, and a lot of these characters are written properly. So as you watch the movie and people get knocked off or get infected, you really feel for them. It's like, dang, like I didn't want that to happen to my boy or my girl, whoever it is. So just a really impactful movie, and one that I'd recommend to anybody, especially if you love Asian horror and if you love zombie apocalypse type horror as well. The next movie that I wanted to talk about is the movie Grave Encounters. This is also a found footage horror movie, and it follows, for their ghost hunting reality show, a production crew locks themselves inside an abandoned mental hospital that's supposedly haunted, and it might prove to be all true. This is another very solid found footage movie. Not one that's probably going to knock your socks off like I would say Hell House LLC would, but for the first watch, it does have some pretty creepy elements. Because you're in an abandoned mental hospital, that by itself as a setting is already relatively creepy, and then the fact that they're in that building, it's abandoned, so that means there's no lighting, so all they have would be like flashlights and things of that nature. So that really adds to sort of that atmosphere for the movie. But yeah, just an overall really solid movie for anybody that loves found footage movies. This is just another one that you can add to your list for sure. The next movie that I want to talk about, and is also a certified banger, is the movie Sleepaway Camp. A lot of people are already familiar with the movie Sleepaway Camp without even really talking about the plot overall. It's just kids go to camp and kids start getting killed at camp. That's pretty much all you need to know, and then I'll let the movie do the rest for you for if you have not seen it. It has one of the best endings and most shocking endings of all time in all of cinema altogether, not even just horror. That's just how shocking it is. Young Felissa Rose, Jonathan Tiersten, they're both really good in the movie and have really good chemistry. Just overall, if you really want to watch a real campy movie, and you love the movies like Friday the 13th and The Burning and movies like that, this is right down your alley. And even if you wanted to continue on into the franchise and watch Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, that just really honestly adds to the campiness, especially if you want to watch that in the summertime. Really can't beat it, honestly. The next movie that I want to talk about as one of the best on Tubi is The Return of the Living Dead. This movie is directed by Dan O'Bannon, and the movie is about when two bumbling employees at a medical supply warehouse accidentally release a deadly gas into the air. The vapors cause the dead to rise again as zombies. This movie right here is one of the pure definitions of being campy and being a parody as well. For the 80s horror lovers, this one is pretty much a must watch. People like Linnea Quigley and Miguel Nunez are in this movie, so just, you'll recognize them from other 80s horror movies and stuff like that. So it's just a fun movie that you can really throw on at any time. The next movie that I wanted to mention as one of the best on Tubi is Maniac Cop, another 80s banger. And this movie follows a killer dressed in a police uniform begins murdering innocent people on the streets of New York City. This movie right here has Tom Atkins, Bruce Campbell, and Richard Roundtree, and the movie set in the 80s. That by itself should tell you everything that you need to know, and that this movie was going to be good by default, because having those three in a movie is just like, okay, there's no way that you're about to go wrong. But yeah, it's a crime, suspense, slasher, thriller, horror type movie, so it's definitely one that'll get you right if you like that style. The next movie / movies that are on Tubi as one of the best is the Scary Movie franchise. Everybody should already be familiar with the Scary Movie franchise, but for the ones that don't, they're essentially movies that are parodies on our favorite horror movies. Every single one of them does it well up to like Scary Movie 4. There's just so many quotable lines from,
"That jacket is tight, son. Yummy.
Yo, that jacket is tight, son.
Yummy.
Yummy.
Other hand isn't strong enough. You take my little hand.
No! Get it away from me!
Take it. Take mine.
Yoo-hoo.
Wait up, man. I heard Jamal from 90th Street. He watched that tape last week, and this morning he woke up dead.
How the hell do you wake up dead?
Because you're alive when you go to sleep.
Wait, just tell me who can
So you
help
telling me that you can go to bed dead and wake up alive?
You can't go to bed dead, man. That shit would be redundant.
Just tell me
No,
who.
it wouldn't. Because you can go to bed and not be dead, and you can die but not be in a bed.
But you are in a bed, man. That's how you wake up dead in the first place, fool.
Damn! That's some quantum shit right there, man.
What are you talking
You
about?
should be teaching classes. You stay dropping out.
like, it's so many different things. You just really can't beat this franchise at all. For my horror comedy people, this is the ultimate franchise that you should be watching, and for the people who already love it, that's just more of a reason for you to go ahead, shoot over to Tubi right now and throw it on. The next movie that I have as one of the best on Tubi is the movie The Thing. This is pretty much a consensus top 10 best horror movie of all time. A lot of people think that this is John Carpenter's best movie, even though I would beg to differ, because that bad boy right there is certainly his best work and is the best horror movie of all time, but I digress. This movie right here is a banger movie, and for the people who are not familiar with The Thing, a research team in Antarctica is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. Classic horror movie with a star-studded lineup. Kurt Russell is my guy, you know. I love him from Big Trouble in Little China, so he's already done, you know, multiple Carpenter films. Pretty much no flaws whatsoever, and it is certainly a horror essential. Like, you cannot call yourself a horror fan and you had not seen The Thing. So for the people that do claim that they're horror fans and you have not seen The Thing, and I'm talking about John Carpenter's 1982 version, make sure you go check that out. And the last horror movie that I feel is one of the best on Tubi, and it is a truly slept on movie that I don't think a lot of people know about, and that is the movie Stitches. This movie follows a clown that comes back from the dead to haunt those who took his life during a fatal party mishap. This movie is a dark comedy, and it just has like the perfect level of gore, perfect level of comedy, and just a really nice slasher. And one thing that I can appreciate with this film, and you could clearly tell that it's a B horror movie. It doesn't have a high budget whatsoever, but still, the fact that you get really solid practical effects in this movie as well, I think really adds to how good this movie is. And then Stitches himself, the clown, he was such a dirtbag, but he was a dirtbag that you kind of were rooting for once you actually see what happens to him. So for people who have not seen Stitches, y'all go ahead and check that out. I want to hear back from a lot of you on what you thought of Stitches. But that is all I have, Spooky Gang. Y'all comment down below what are some of your favorite horror movies from this list. And if you think that Tubi has the best horror movies out of all of the streaming platforms, because I think personally that there's no contest whatsoever. But yeah, y'all comment that down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We're on the road to 10K subs. Y'all know how we coming. Trying to hit that goal, and we're gonna keep pushing these videos out so we can grow this community together. But yeah, Spooky Gang, I don't even know if y'all can tell in my voice, but I got sick over the past week. Even though I missed last week's video, there was no way that sickness was gonna stop me from uploading this week. So y'all already know I got y'all. But yeah, until next time, Spooky Gang, love y'all. Y'all stay blessed and y'all stay spooky.